Coming up on No Pulp, the madness has just begun in the NCAA tournament, and we've got a slew of upsets to talk about, including the third ever 15 seed making it past the opening weekend.
Oh, wow. And I'll tell you why the most frustrating part of this year's tournament has nothing to do with the players on the court.
Yeah, and Jaron and I both pick our favorite moments from the first slate of games, so grab a seat, maybe some popcorn, and don't go anywhere, because No Pulp starts now.
Are we crazy?
Again, you're going over too many times. I can't with you.
When you lose those games, it's tough for those teams.
Mainstream, schmainstream.
I am ready to go to battle.
Welcome into another edition of No Pulp. Noah Cierzan here alongside Jaron May for one of, if not the most exciting episodes of the year, Jaron, because over the weekend we had 64 games between the men's and women's tournament. Crazy weekend to go over. Is your bracket still intact?
No, I mean,
Not at all?
after the first game, it was done.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring up the brackets. I don't want to bring up the brackets.
We won't bring it up anymore. I think a lot of people are right there with you because of the first weekend, in large part due to the chaos going down in the East region. Both the number 1 and 2 seed Baylor and Kentucky are gone, and there's a certain Cinderella from Jersey City looking to make some history in the Sweet 16. Out of everything in the East region, there's a lot to go over. What was your biggest takeaway from opening weekend?
Well, I think the biggest thing is St. Peter's. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to.
Yeah.
It's the best story of the tournament so far, but I'm going to be the negative Nelly on this show and tell you that St. Peter's is a great story. They're done. They're not making it past the Sweet 16. Momentum, you can always bring momentum through the first 2 rounds because you're all in that one weekend. But during the week, you lose that momentum. You're heading into a really strong Purdue team that has a chance to get out of that region, which I think you and I might both agree on because Purdue's really solid. And then even if you do get past Purdue, you have either North Carolina or a really solid team in UCLA. Both of those teams are pretty good. I think St. Peter's run might be over.
I think you got to give some love to the Peacocks, though. One, because this next slate of games played in Philly, very close to Jersey City, so I would expect some fans to be down there. Also, Shaheen Holloway, he's got a unit that ranks 28th in the country in defensive efficiency for Ken Palm.
Defense.
I love it. I love the defensive teams. They're always the ones that get it done in March, so I'm not sure that they win, but they might cover the 12-point spread. The thing I want to look at, though, Jaron, is that other side, because I agree with you. Purdue's going to be the favorite to make it to the Final Four out of the East region, but the other matchup is really intriguing to me. UNC, UCLA, both teams that have very, very high ceilings, as we saw in the first 2 rounds, especially Carolina, if they can hit the 3-ball.
Yeah, I really like UNC, and I'm going to talk about them a lot during this show because I'm so high on them. Leaky Black is one of the best defenders in college basketball right now. RJ Davis is serious. And then they have that 2-headed monster on the inside in Brady Manek and Armando Bacot. Bacot eats up rebounds. Manek can shoot it from the outside and body down low. They have everything that you need. It's solid offense and a really good defense. They can grab boards. They don't lose the battle of those. This is a team that I can see making it to the Final Four.
Yeah.
Put it out there. UNC, I think they can make it to the Final Four, and they can easily come out of the East.
Yeah, for me, real quick, I think winner of UNC UCLA beat Purdue, go on to the Final Four.
Okay, interesting. I like that. All right, headline number 2 of the show, but maybe number 1 of the tournament is Michigan. After barely making it into the tourney, the 11th seeded Wolverines are Sweet 16 bound with wins over Colorado State and Tennessee. Now that pits Michigan against Villanova in the 3rd round. Noah, this is now back-to-back seasons where Juwan Howard's group has made it to the Sweet 16. I mean, they're as legit can be.
Yeah, I mean, I think not only Juwan Howard, a lot of people want to talk about, the antics that he pulled against Wisconsin a couple weeks back, but the way this group has rallied, especially when just a couple weeks ago, this was a team that wasn't in the NCAA tournament. Yeah. They were without their best player in Hunter Dickinson, but they rallied. They made a run at the end of the Big Ten. They are now at full health, and you have to give it up to Michigan because this is a program that Are
you saying blue blood?
They are blue blood. That is exactly what I was going to say.
Stop it.
Well, and I'll tell you what. Juwan Howard he has done a phenomenal job. But the reason that classifies them as blue blood is they have transitioned coaches and maintained success that whole entire time. They've had success basically how they have now since 2008. Beeline had the same success. He went to 3 straight Sweet 16s, handed the program over. It is still finding those same big wins. So this is a big blue blood program, best one in the Big Ten. I mean, how can you say they're not?
Stop it. They're not a blue blood. Yes, they're probably towards the top of the Big Ten, especially over the past couple of years. They're not a blue blood because blue blood entails that you have been good for decades, that you have been the best of the best.
Well, if that's your standard.
That is 100% what a blue blood is. When you talk about blue blood, you talk about UCLA, you talk about Kentucky, you talk about Duke, you talk about all the really good
So Kansas
blue
isn't a blue blood
Kansas
then.
is. Yes, it is. 100%.
They haven't been good for decades. They've been good
yes,
under 20 years of Bill Self.
How many national championships has Michigan had? One. They've had one. They've had one. I mean, yes, they are really good. What I'm going to put them as a label as, not blue blood, but I have present-day elite program. Put Michigan right next to Michigan
such a
State.
boring
Put them
moniker.
Villanova. Put them with Gonzaga. Do not call them a blue blood. Michigan is on a great run right now. Juwan Howard is a coach that should not get fired because someone on this show said that a couple episodes ago. However, they are not a blue blood.
All right. Well, I think we can both put respect on Michigan's name. And they're actually, matter of fact, not the only 11 seed left dancing because the Iowa State Cyclones have stormed their way past LSU and Wisconsin to make it to the Sweet 16. And what makes this run even more impressive for first-year coach TJ Otzelberger is that Iowa State didn't even win a single conference game a season ago. Truly remarkable. Jaron, how was he able to turn around the Cyclones in just 1 year?
Yeah, I have this stat that I really want to read out. They're the first team to win the same number of games the previous season as they did in the tournament. They have 2 wins in the tournament this year. They had 2 wins last year. It's ridiculous.
That's a stat.
First time ever. This turnaround is all about the defense. In the last 6 years, the Cyclones have made it to the tourney 3 times. All 3 of those years, they've had a top 50 defense. The 3 years that they didn't make it to the tourney, their defense was outside the top 100. This year, they have the 5th best defense in the country. They're relying on their D.
Not only defense, but I think this is also a product of the transfer portal. We've seen Tommy Lloyd do it at Arizona, find a lot of success. The way the transfer portal is set up now, I think you'll start to see this a lot more in college basketball. Will definitely be interesting to see going forward.
Now, they do have a tough matchup with that Miami team. That offense is really darn good. It's going to be, can Miami's offense outlast the great defense that the Cyclones have?
Definitely will be a fun one to watch, as will all of the Sweet 16 matchups. And we've got a lot more to talk about. We're going to take a quick break, though. And when we come back, Citrus TV's very own Michigan native comes on to restore Juwan Howard's name in the juicer. Don't touch the dial. We'll be back in 60.
Every time I hear the alarm bell go off in school, I think it's an air raid.
A lot of houses in our neighborhood have been destroyed. I like to close my ears and sing songs whenever the bombs come close.
I'm worried our new neighbors won't like us.
But I know it's all gonna be worth it. I just want my family to be safe. But these are not my words.
These are not my words.
These are not my words.
You've messed up your son's haircut.
Mom?
Do you A, try to fix it,
Like it never happened.
B, work with what you got, or C, show solidarity?
Thank you, baby.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Welcome back into No Pulp, No Cierzan here, joined as always by Jaron May, and now John Eads in everyone's favorite game, the juicers. So for those who need a refresher on the rules, I'll give Jaron and John a prompt, and they'll each get 30 seconds to give their case on why their answer is correct. I award the points, most points win, and John, even if Jaron wins, you can't punch him. Okay. That's just how the game works.
When I leave here? Is that okay?
Yeah, when outside the studio.
Okay.
That's how it works. All right. Now that we got the rules set, the table set, you can't talk about March Madness without the Cinderellas. The other side of that, of course, is the teams who fall completely flat of all expectations. So, Jaron, what team has disappointed the most thus far?
It's Iowa. I mean, they didn't even make it out of the first round, and that comes after they just won the Big Ten, probably the best conference in the regular season that sent 9 teams to the NCAA tournament. So if you're the best of the best, you're expected to make it out of the first round. However, they lost to a number 12 seed in Richmond. They have a top 3 offense per Ken Palm. They have a Player of the Year candidate in Keegan Murray, and 86% of the brackets had them coming out of the first round. 61 had them making the Sweet 16. Everyone thought that they would win that game, and they didn't.
Iowa disappoints every year. If you know the Big Ten, you know the Hawkeyes let you down every year, whether it be in football, whether it be in basketball. So for me, it's Kentucky. And I actually have 2 questions for you, Jaron. First of all, you can't look at my answers here.
I can't read your answers.
Good. St. Peter's, where is that, and what conference are they in?
They're in New Jersey, and they're in the MAAC.
MAAC.
Give me the
okay.
points.
All right, fine. But that doesn't distract. Don't let that distract you from the fact that it was a very disappointing loss. The first opening round loss for Kentucky under John Calipari. You mentioned numbers for Iowa in terms of the brackets. 6% of people had Kentucky winning the whole tournament. 30% had them in the Final Four. This is just an absolute disappointment of absolute big proportions.
So despite Jaron's masterclass geography, I'm giving this one to John. Kentucky falling to a small school from New Jersey, Jersey City, never in the cards. Point goes to John. So unlike Iowa and Kentucky, some teams have held their ground and then some as they head into weekend 2. So John, which team has impressed the most thus far?
I got to defend Juwan Howard. We were saying some pretty slanderous things about Michigan and them not being a blue blood and stuff like that. So it's Michigan. They've definitely impressed me the most. I know they were a pretty popular upset pick over Colorado State in that 6-11 matchup. I think 51% of people had them winning that game. But days before, minutes before, hours before, Devontae Jones, the team's starting point guard, was put into concussion protocol. He didn't even play in this game. So a guy named Frankie Collins, a true freshman, has stepped up. He had 14 points and 6 rebounds in his first career start. And this looks like a team that could make the Final Four, guys. They hadn't won back-to-back games since February 8th and 10th. They just did that, and they took down the best team in the SEC in Tennessee, and I think they're primed for that Final Four run.
All right, Tennessee's not the best team in the SEC.
Well, they won the SEC tournament.
Toss that out there. Auburn is better. Okay, I'm going to go with North Carolina on this one because they have scored 90-plus points in both of their games. They had 93 on the reigning national champs in Baylor, and Baylor had the number 9 overall defense in the entire country this year. They never allowed over 90 points this entire season. North Carolina comes in there with Brady Manick leaving in the second half and missing the last 10 minutes of the game. Without him, they still pull off a win. They had a 20-point lead at one point over the Baylor Bears. They won the rebounding battle by an average of 12 rebounds per game in both contests so far. UNC looks like they could win the entire thing.
I love the Tar Heels. We talked about it early. But again, I'm going with John. Michigan, a team that, like I said earlier, was not in the picture a couple weeks back. And now they're in the Sweet 16, primed for potentially a Final Four run. All right, now that the dust is settled, we've got 16 teams remaining. One of those left is big potential for a deep run. Jaron, out of all the teams, which has the easiest path to the Final Four?
I'm going to go Kansas with this one because they just have to get through Providence, and Providence is the luckiest team in the entire country this year per Ken Palm. And Providence only looks good and has some recency bias because they just beat a really bad Richmond team that we go back to, was taken down by, or took down Iowa rather. And then they have to either go up against Iowa State or Miami. Neither of them should still be in the tournament. Miami has a 123rd best defense, so that can't stick up with Kansas. And then Iowa State has 156th best offense, so that can't stick around with Kansas. I think Kansas is floating to the Final Four.
For me, it's Purdue, and I think the Boilermakers have had the easiest path ever since the tournament started. Now, St. Peter's certainly helped them out by taking down Kentucky, but, I agree with you, and I agree with Jaron with what you guys said earlier. St. Peter's is not going to advance into the Elite Eight. Their magical run here is going to end in the Sweet 16, and who's left in this region? You got UCLA, you got UNC after that, the winner of that matchup. Neither of those teams, I would say, have a 1-2 punch inside. You mentioned Brady Manick and Armando Bacot that can play with Purdue's Zach Edey and Trevion Williams. Williams is the backup to Edey. He just put up 30 points in their last game to advance to the Sweet 16. So I don't think either of those squads have an answer for those two. I think they win whoever wins that matchup and advance to the Final Four, and who knows, maybe even win the whole thing.
So kudos to Jaron. You threw out enough defensive statistics for my liking. I'm going Kansas here. I love the Jayhawks, and they got a bunch of double-digit seeds left in their region. So this final question is worth 2 points. So for all the marbles, let's look at the conferences. Every year, March Madness shows there's a conference or two that everybody was sleeping on, along with some that have disappointed. So John, which conference has underwhelmed the most?
Yeah, let me just pull up my CVS receipt here with all the SEC disappointments this year. We'll start with Tennessee, who I just mentioned lost to Michigan in the second round, a team that hadn't won back-to-back games in over a month. Moved down the list to Kentucky, who, we already talked about, lost to St. Peter's in a 2-15 matchup. Alabama got bounced out by Notre Dame in that first 4 matchup. LSU's just an absolute mess. You talked about Auburn. They lost to Miami, who's a 10 seed. Arkansas is the only team left for the SEC, and it's not looking good for them. They got Gonzaga next in the Sweet 16.
All right, that's your case. Thank you very much, Sherlock. Jaron?
I'm going to go Big Ten, and as a Big Ten man, you understand that this entire conference sent 9 teams to the NCAA tournament. They were the best conference in the regular season. How many teams do they have remaining in the Sweet 16 after one weekend? They have 2. 4 teams as top 5 seeds. They average a 7 seed or better. They have 3 losses to double-digit seeds, and they only have Purdue and Michigan left. That's only 22% of their teams. That's not too good.
So I'm going to have to swallow my pride on this one. The Big Ten is stunk.
Yeah.
Jaron, you win the 2 points. You win the juicer. They have disappointed, and maybe when the Gophers get back in the tournament, power will be restored in the Big Ten. Thank you so much for coming on, John. Sad to see you leave, but ecstatic for No Pulp to keep rolling along, because after the break, we've got our moment you won't want to miss, so don't go anywhere.
It's a beautiful day out here. Sunny today with light breezes, giving way to clouds in the afternoon. We could see some light precipitation to moderate precipitation later on, followed by powerful storm-like conditions. 90 miles per hour winds are expected. Authorities are asking everyone, stay indoors. Come on, that's it. Let's go.
Looking for these? You drive buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
One shining moment. I knew I'd get you. I knew I'd get you. Welcome back into this. I know. Welcome back into the Citrus TV studio for No Pulp alongside Noah Cierzan. I'm Jaron May. Noah, your favorite part of every NCAA tournament has to be one shining moment,
especially
right?
when you sing it.
Especially when I sing it. However, that's that end of the tournament montage. So with that as our backdrop, let's play a little game called Shining Moments. We're going to run through some of our favorite plays and moments from both the men's and women's tournaments, and I'll start with the bad man that is Jabari Smith. Roll the tape, watch this. This is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. He's a freshman, remember that. A freshman, probably a top 3 pick. Misses, grabs his own board. Oh my goodness. He just took the soul of Jacksonville State's Brandon Huffman, and get this, Huffman is 6'10", 255 pounds. It's not easy to go up and catch a soul like that. That is an absolute poster. That's a shining moment for the freshman. And look at that reaction. That's the same thing I had, but I was just like sitting on my couch.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God.
So Jabari Smith dunk, pretty crazy. It would be even crazier like if somebody dunked over him. That would be wild. Like somebody named Isaiah Wong from Miami, if they just went exactly over the top, cut into the lane, and boom! Oh my goodness, that's a big slam from Isaiah Wong. So good, you gotta see it twice. Wong, over 20 points in the first 2 games. He's led Miami to one of its best seasons in the history under Jim Larranaga. Another time seeing that dunk. Incredible dunk. Isaiah Wong has been spectacular, and they will be dangerous against Iowa State, potentially making a Final Four run.
I teed you up for that one.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was your play.
I
I did not know that at all. All right, let's go over to the women's bracket because Lauren Jensen had an absolute dagger. Let's watch this one, too, because she used to play at Iowa, then transferred to Creighton. At the end, her team down by 2, bang, with like 10 seconds remaining. That would be the game winner. But this Jensen story is kind of crazy. She played a season at Iowa, averaged 10+ minutes in the first 9 games. In the last 9, only 3 minutes per game. She scored 9 of her team's last 10 points for Creighton in that game and had the dagger to send her old team packing because they didn't give her enough playing time.
Some sweet vindication there. Iowa not happy. They get upset. They won't be headed far. There's actually been a lot of upsets on the women's bracket. One of the bigger ones has been South Dakota, who rolled in the first game, won by 14 points, but then in the second round in Baylor, Waco, Texas, daggers, threes all game long. They dominated this one from start to finish, held the Bears, who average over 76 points per game, to 47 points on the way to their first Sweet 16 in program history against a program in Baylor that is historic. If you want to talk about blue bloods, I don't want to make you angry
Green
here,
bloods.
but they are a women's college basketball blue blood program. So South Dakota, go Yotes. They're headed to the Sweet 16, and it's so fun to see.
That is fun. Those are our shining moments, but those aren't the only shining moments of this tournament. Take a look.
Bingham inside.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, baby!
Ivy's gonna launch, and he buries it.
Wheeler gives it up. Brooks, the jumper. No good! You can feel the madness!
And 1 for 2.
Ollie, nice find and Dandridge! The finish! Get the cheerleader up! Get her up there! This is how you do it! Give her the mod. Now she's got it! Oh, what a play!
If you thought those moments were fun, just wait for the next 4 rounds. And just wait for Noah and me to pick some upsets and give our final words. All that right after the break.
Here's your check.
Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. God, nope.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Every time I hear the alarm bell go off in school, I think it's an air raid.
A lot of houses in our neighborhood have been destroyed. I like to close my ears and sing songs whenever the bombs come close.
I'm worried our new neighbors won't like us.
But I know it's all gonna be worth it. I just want my family to be safe. But these are not my words.
These are not my words.
These are not my words.
Welcome back into the CitrusTV studio. Noah Cierzan and Jaron May closing things down on this edition of No Poll. But before we go, we've got to preview a couple of big games this week with a little bit of a twist. Jaron and I both have a Sweet 16 upset that we have picked and we love. I'm going to start off.
I would like
you got
to
a
point
lock?
that out. I got a lock of an
All right,
upset.
I'm going lock too. I'm doubling down. I'm going Houston. I absolutely love them after I kind of, didn't have a lot of trust in them all season long. But Coach Sampson has one of the best defenses in the country. I think they are going to obliterate an Arizona team that I know you love, so I knew you were going to hate this pick. But you got to love what Houston is doing. They have shown up big time in the first 2 rounds. One of the teams that has looked the most consistently good through 2 games. I put them right there with the Purdue's and some of these teams that have had the rankings to show for it and have also performed well. And I also think they got a little bit underseeded in the tournament overall. They easily could have been.
I'd consider that a John Eads lock that hits at like 32% of the time.
Come on. So you don't like
I mean,
Houston.
Tommy Lloyd and his team are fantastic.
They are fantastic.
And also, if you want to be my friend and root for my bracket, we're going to need Arizona to win.
Well, we're probably in the same pool, so I'm not rooting for you at all. That's my upset, though. I love Houston.
All right, I'm not going to consider that one a lock. I'm going to consider this one a lock because North Carolina is taking down UCLA. 8 is going to beat a 4 because this North Carolina team, as I've talked about ad nauseum throughout this show, is really, really solid. I love Armando Bacot down low. He's probably the best big man remaining in this tournament. I mean, if you consider Chet Holmgren a big man, that's a whole nother conversation.
Big man.
Right, but like a big man.
Yeah, he's kind of like a big man.
Yeah, big man versus big man. Yeah. Armando Bacot is the biggest man still left. They've scored 90-plus points in both games. They had a 20-point lead over the reigning national champs in Baylor. And then Brady Manick, I think, is one of the more underrated players of this tournament remaining. He can hit it from the outside, also get to the inside, and then they have those shifty guards on the outside as well.
I love North Carolina as well. If UCLA wants to compete in this one, Jaime Jaquez is going to have to get going. He's been slow thus far in the tournament. So for the Bruins, get your best player, Jaime Jaquez, going. Another big game this weekend. We're heading over to the women's side. Like we said earlier, lots of parity thus far, but it has set up a fantastic matchup in the Sweet 16. It's going to be number 1 Stanford taking on the 4th-seeded Maryland Terrapins. And I think this is a matchup that's interesting because Maryland, a team in the past that has been a lot higher seed, maybe not as good as they've been in the past, but still a very legit program playing one of the best teams in the country in Stanford.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big game. I'm still going to go Stanford. I know that there has been a good amount of upsets for the women's tournament so far. I still like Stanford. Lexi Hull's coming off a career high with 36 points. She was stroking it from the outside. And then Fran Belby just threw down the 3rd dunk in the NCAA women's tournament history. If you have a player putting up career highs and another player throwing down dunks, I'm not going to vote against them. I'm going Stanford.
Yeah, I like that pick. I will say Maryland, a team that is putting up points like nobody has ever seen before.
90s every game.
30-point victory in their last game. So I love the Terrapins. I don't know if they beat Stanford, but I think it's going to be a competitive game that I will definitely want to be tuned in for. Those were our big games, but it's time for our final words. Opening weekend brought all the thrills and chills any fan could have asked for, which has given a lot of attention to the Cinderella's still dancing. That's great and all, but for the 1,000th time, I must ask, why in the world are people sleeping on Ed Cooley and the Providence Friars? Despite dismantling a hot Richmond squad by 28 points to head to the Sweet 16, Providence sits as a 7-point underdog to Kansas. That's the 3rd largest spread of the round and just acts as a further more example of bulletin board material for Providence. Say what you want about metrics, but there's something to be said about the Friars' ability to flat out win. Just a warning if you want to keep doubting Providence.
So you're a big Friars guy. My final words have to do with the guys on the floor not in jerseys. Plain and simple, the NCAA has an officiating problem. I understand people complain about the refs all the time, but this tournament has been especially bad. Example A. Iowa down by 3. Chris Murray was clearly hit on the arm shooting a 3 in the final minute, but no foul was called and the Hawkeyes lost. B. UNC's Brady Manick was injected for a horrible call that almost cost the Tar Heels the game against the reigning national champs. Example C. Illinois' RJ Melendez was given a tech for hanging on the rim so that his momentum didn't lead to an injury after a dunk. I mean, come on. The average viewer isn't a trained official, but when you have the refs trending on Twitter during games, you have a serious issue. The officials should not be a topic of discussion during March Madness. It should be about the players. Complaints will always be thrown, but the NCAA has to do something about this.
Something to watch as we head into next weekend. That's all the time we've got on this edition of No Pulp. Alongside Jaron May, I'm Noah Cierzan saying so long and enjoy the Sweet 16.